What's going on YouTube? My name is Speed, but you can call me JT, and today I decided to actually leave my room for once and go play some IRL Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals, and I was able to actually get second place out of the 30-man locals with Salamangreat. So I wanted to bring you guys this video as an updated deck profile and to show you guys the deck that I actually played for this local. I ended up with a record of X1, my only loss being obviously the final match of the day to Dinomorphia, actually. Shout out to that guy because that Dinomorphia deck was really spicy. It was really cool. It was a really fun game to play. Unfortunately, he took it out in game 3. It was a really close game all around, but that deck is really cool. Shout out to him. But I did want to bring you guys this deck profile to showcase just how powerful Salamangreat is in this card format, because Sal's like an interesting deck right now. I mean, if you haven't noticed over the past year, I'd say Salad has slowly but surely been coming back to full power. I mean, we have Mirage Thalia back to 3, Salamangreat Circle back to 3 on the most recent ban list. We've had Lady Debug back to 3 for a couple formats now. Salad is slowly but surely getting back to that 2019 form that we saw win Worlds a couple years ago, which is actually really cool to see. It's one of my favorite decks of all time to play, so I decided, going into this format that I wanted to try out playing Salamangreat. And over the past, I would say, couple weeks that I've been playing this deck at locals, I've been seeing a lot of success, and I think it's a really cool deck. This format, it's not quite tiered in the meta, but I definitely think it is top tier rogue, maybe low tier 2 deck that you definitely do have to respect going into these big tournaments and the competitive season here these coming weeks. It's just a really cool deck, and I really enjoy playing it, and I just wanted to bring you guys this deck profile. So without further ado, let's get right into the card by card. So starting out with our main deck here, we are playing a 40 card even main deck just to max out on the consistency. The name of the game with Salads is consistency, and we want to be playing as consistent of a build as possible, so we are playing 40 cards even. I'm going to go through the card by card and try to explain my choices as I go, but we're going to start off with our Salamangreat package here. We're going to play the 1 Gazelle, 3 Spinny, double Foxy, double Jack Jaguar, 1 Falco, and 1 Mirror. This is pretty much, I would say, like a standard Salad package. Maybe Mirror is like the only odd choice that you might not have seen much in builds before, but I do see a lot of builds actually playing this card. So I decided to test it out over the past couple weeks, and I actually really like this card. It does come up a lot in a lot of niche scenarios, especially now that cards like Salamangreat Circle are limited, and cards that like Deco Tucker Heat Soul exist. Getting access to this card and just having a free body on field, just an extra body on field, is really nice. And it also comes up in some niche scenarios where you draw like something like a Jack Jaguar or something like a Foxy that you want to engrave. Being able to ditch the one of those cards to summon your Mirror is actually very advantageous and just allows for a lot of plussing with the deck. So I do like the Mirror. Again, the rest of this, like, you could actually cut this for like something like a 3rd Foxy or something like a Foul or really any other like of the good Salad names, but I've been testing the Mirror a lot, and it came up a lot today, and I do really like the Mirror in this deck. But the rest of it is pretty much, I would say, standard for Salad builds right now. Moving on here, we are playing 9 search cards in the deck now because we have 3 Lady Debug, 3 Salamangreat Circle, and triple Signet Mining. Maximum consistency. Like I said, the name of the game with this deck is consistency. I've seen a lot of builds, opt to play cards like Flame Buffalo over the Lady Debug. I just think you get a lot of more advantage off the Lady Debug. Obviously, it is a 1-card access code OTK going second in a simplified game state, which is really nice for this deck because you do find yourself in a lot of simplified game states with this deck, which we'll go over in a second as we keep going with the deck profile. But I just find that Lady Debug is a lot more advantageous and does a lot more for the deck than Flame Buffalo. I have tested Buffalo before. Debug gives you just access to a lot more. It gives you access to your rank 4 pool easier because it is a level 4. It gives you the ability to play, to bait some hand traps. Basically, drawing any combination of these, any combination of 2 of these cards will make sure that your combo goes off through at least 1 hand trap, which is really nice because Debug is very easy hand trap bait for your opponent. So normal summoning the Debug just to even bait out a hand trap and then activating one of these cards to continue with the combo is really strong. So that's the reason I would like to play Debug over the Buffalo in this build. And next up, we are playing what I think is the main win condition of this deck right now, our hand trap lineup. We are main decking 15 hand traps, triple Ash, triple Veiler, triple Imperm, and triple main deck Nibiru and Droll and Lockbird. Like I said, I think this is pretty much like the main win condition for this deck in this day and age, is you're basically playing hand trap control. Basically, your ideal scenario with this deck is to see a combination of at least 2 of these hand traps, because that drastically increases your chances of basically just not dying, right? So the name of the game with this deck right now is, if you're not going to kill me on turn 2, I'm going to kill you on turn 3. And having this many hand traps, again, maybe the ideal scenario of seeing at least 2 of these drastically increases your chances of seeing that simplified game state that I mentioned earlier, because in a simplified game state, this deck is very, very explosive and can OTK basically out of nowhere. So having this many hand traps in the main deck drastically increases your chances of seeing that. Obviously, you have the lower impact hand traps, which are, you know, your Ash Veil or Imperm, which cover, you know, pretty much every matchup that you're going to face. And then you have the Nib and Droll, which are more matchup specific, but they are very, very high impact. The decks that these 2 hand traps hit, they hit very, very hard. And a lot of people are not expecting these cards in the main deck, which is a very, very good way to be able to, you know, cheat out wins. Not cheat out wins, but you know what I mean? Like, very, very, very easy way to just, you know, power your way through game 1s before you enter siding, obviously. These cards are really, really good. Obviously, seeing access to them with cards like Deco Tucker Heat Soul is really good. Just being able to, you know, just being able to go through your full combo and still end on 5 cards in hand with possibly 2 or more hand traps is really hard for a lot of decks to play through. So, like I said, this is probably your main win condition right here. You can obviously sub out these hand traps with different hand traps for your formats, DD Crows, Ciphering Gear Gammas, all that stuff. But this is the 15 that I decided to go with for this deck. Next up with the salad cards, we're playing 2 Will and obviously the 1 Sanctuary that's mandatory. 2 Will is fine. It helps you play through your hand traps. It helps you at least try to do something if you get Nibiru, because obviously this deck does really get hurt by Nibiru. You don't have really anything to play around the Nibiru. So Will, at least, you know, in a lot of cases, if they do shotgun the Nibiru earlier on in your combo, you can at least play through some stuff with the Will. It's a very good card. And it's also really good for pushing for OTKs if need be. And then the last spell in the deck, we are playing, obviously, the 1 Called by the Grave to play around some of the hand traps that could hurt our combos. And to round out the main deck, our 39th and 40th card, we are playing 1 of each Salamangreat trap. These are kind of like a secondary win condition. Most of the time, your end board is literally just Deco Tucker Heat Soul pass with like 6 cards in hand, and just hoping again that you have multiple hand traps. But in the off chance that you don't draw multiple hand traps, having access to the traps and being able to easily access them with something like a Gazelle is very, very impactful. These cards are still really, really great, and they're still a good win condition to have for the deck. So like I said, that's our 40 card main deck. There's like a couple off choices. Again, like the Mirror, you could play around with stuff like Foul or like a 3rd Foxy or stuff like that. But I think, you know, I've been testing this deck for a while now, and I really do think that this is probably the best option you can do for the main deck. I've seen a lot of people putting the Adventure Engine in this deck. I tested it and I hated every game that I played with the Adventure Engine in this deck. I definitely would not play it. So moving on into our extra deck, we are playing 3 Balinks and 3 Sunlight Wolf. If I can find my other Sunlight Wolf, there we go. 3 of each. I've seen people play less. 3 of each really, really helps the grind game. You can probably cut maybe 1. I would cut 1 or the other, either 1 Balinks or 1 Sunlight Wolf, if you wanted to like play something in the extra deck. But playing 3 of each definitely helps in the grind game for sure. And next we have pretty much what, like I said, is the main win condition of this deck now. Deco Tucker Heat Soul. This card is absolutely crazy. It's literally just Pot of Greed that you can do every single turn. And when you're playing a deck that plays as many blowout cards as mine does, with the 15 hand traps in the main deck, drawing 2 every single turn is actually ridiculous. Like, it's so crazy how much power this card single-handedly gives to this deck, which is crazy. And the ways that you're going to access this the most of the time, one copy of Lingeribo and one copy of Splash Mage. Because Deco Stalker Heat Soul does require Cyberse monsters of different attributes, you will need to be going into some non-fire link monsters from here and there. And these two are just the best ones. Like Splash Mage is the one that you'll be going into the most of the time, and Lingeribo comes up again in certain scenarios where you just need to link off one monster for something to get into your Heat Soul. So both of these cards are very, very good, and obviously they're just there to get into your Heat Soul. And then we have the Update Jammer, Transcode, Access Code, OTK line. I do think that I want to test going forward playing a second access code, because there is a lot of the time, especially when you run into people that are more familiar with the matchup, especially more familiar with the more recent Salamangreat builds. There's a lot of people that are familiar, obviously, with the one that was good back in 2019, but people that are more familiar with the more recent Salamangreat builds will most likely be aware of this line, and if they do have any interruption, they will hold it until you go through your access code. And once you go through your access code, and the majority of the time, your deck kind of just flounders. You're still, you can still be in a winning position from there, and you can still pull out games, but it is very, very difficult. And I feel like just having access to a second access code, no pun intended, would actually help that a lot going forward. So I think going forward, like I said, you can probably cut maybe one Balings or one Sunlight Wolf. Going forward, I might try cutting one and just putting in a second access code. That's like the only thing I think I would change from this extra deck. Other than that, like, obviously the access code line is crazy. It's just OTKs out of nowhere. And the last link monster we play is One Nightmare Phoenix. This is pretty much in here just as like a generic link to play. Just when you have like some weird kind of like board states. I was playing against a Sky Striker player the other day, and they flipped There Can Be Only One, and I had one Salad name on board. I normal summoned a hand trap, made Nightmare Phoenix, and then out of the Tikaboo and continued to play because Nightmare Phoenix is a fire. So there's just a lot of niche scenarios where this card is just strictly better than something like a Heat Leo, and it does come up in a lot of scenarios. This card I think is really good just as like a generic link to have in the extra deck. And rounding out our extra deck here, we are playing the one copy of Mirage Stalio, as well as our only other Xyz, the Baguska, in the extra deck here. These cards are both crazy. Let's see, a lot of people actually starting to cut the Mirage Stalio because it's not as impactful as it used to be. I don't know why you would ever do that. I tried a build that didn't play Mirage Stalio, and I missed it about every single game that I played. So like this card, both of its effects, obviously getting your names into rotation is really good, but going second, having access to this card to shuffle back one of your opponent's monsters, if you're not going to go for that access code line, that access code OTK line, is really, really good, again, to just get back to that simplified board state that we were talking about earlier. This card is absolutely crazy. Again, it is back to 3. You can technically play more than one. I wouldn't play more than one. You can shuffle it back really easily with something like a Jack Jaguar, but I definitely would play at least the one copy in the extra deck for sure. And then Baguska is just a blowout. This card, every player that I summon this against hates me for it, because this card it shuts down so many decks. It shuts down the branded deck, it shuts down Sword Soul for the most part. This card is absolutely crazy to have it in the deck. It's just a blowout. And we are going to go over the side deck that I played for this tournament. My side deck isn't like completely optimized. I kind of made it like an hour before I was going to the tournament today, but it was actually pretty good, I think. Like pretty much every single card in this side deck came up at least once today, so honestly, I don't really know what I would change with the side deck, but for the side deck, we were playing the triple token collector for the Sword Soul matchup, the triple dimensional barrier, and the triple anti-spell fragrance for going first. Just power, blowout cards, more auto win cards. Flipping this against like the Drytron player that I played was crazy. Flipping this against Despia obviously just ends their turn. These cards are basically just all blowout cards and all insta win cards, which are crazy. We're playing one Change of Heart just because I needed a 15th card, and Change of Heart was pretty cool. I think that actually this is the only card that didn't come up today. I didn't draw it once unfortunately, but it is still a crazy card you would definitely play. And then because about 15 minutes before I was about to leave for the local today, I decided that I was deathly afraid of Zombie World. I decided to side a ton of like back row hate and just like pretty much Zombie World hate. So 1 Pank, 1 Duster, 2 Twin, 1 Reboot. All of these cards were crazy. I got Zombie World 3 times today, I think it was. I was playing against the one guy that was playing branded zombie Predaplant, like weird pile stuff, and he actually Zombie Worlded me both games. He was going first, which I believe was game 2 and 3, and I outed it both times, and I should have won the game 2. I misplayed the game 2, but I outed it the game 3 and then blew him out like the game, the rest of the game, and just won. But yeah, like this deck is really hurt by stuff like Zombie World and kind of hurt by stuff like back row. I wish I saw more of these cards in the Dynamorphia matchup at the end. But unfortunately I didn't see enough and I ended up losing that matchup. But yeah, I mean, like, this is okay. Like, Pankratops is absolutely insane. I don't know why people don't side this card more. This card wins matchups by itself. It is a one of, but the cards, the games that you do draw the one of, you like, it's so powerful. But yeah, again, like I said, the side deck wasn't very optimized, but for the most part, everything other than Change of Heart actually came up at some point today, which is pretty crazy. So that's pretty much it with the deck profile. So like I said, I do think Salad is a very powerful deck this format. It is definitely a deck that you're going to have to respect if you are going to these big tournaments over the next several weeks, the national tournaments, the YCSs. There is going to be some players that are playing this deck, and it is definitely something that you have to be on the lookout for. And if you're looking to pick up a deck this format, I do really recommend playing Salad, because not only is it just a blast to play, like, I have so much fun playing this deck every single time. All the games are interactive for the most part, but it's a very skill intensive deck, right? And I feel like, you know, literally just playing this deck for the past month, I feel like I've gotten a lot better at the game. Literally just by playing Salamangreat for the past month at locals. So as always, if you guys would change any of the cards that I played, or you have any suggestions on changing the ratios that I played, leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure there are many Salamangreat players out there that are much better at the game than me. I'm not saying this build is perfect by any means, so again, if you have any suggestions, please do leave them in the comments. I would love to improve this deck going forward. So there's one more thing that I wanted to go over in this video, and if you haven't noticed by the intro and the differences with the channel, I am changing my channel branding, or whatever you want to call it. I'm no longer going by SpeedYGO. I am now officially going by JT Speed. If you don't know me, I've been competing in competitive video games, competitive esports for the past several years under the tag or persona, or whatever you want to call it, JT Speed, and that has kind of been my online persona for the past several years. And when I started doing YouTube content with Yu-Gi-Oh, I kind of kept it separate from all my online stuff, but now that I'm starting to get more and more into Yu-Gi-Oh and more into content creation with Yu-Gi-Oh, I kind of wanted to bring those two together, because I think that, you know, introducing both audiences to the content of both things would help the growth for my channel, and would help obviously introduce two different audiences to the content, because I think that would be really cool. So over the next several weeks, I am going to start changing the branding. We're going to be getting a new profile picture, new banner for the channel, and just an overall new branding to kind of kickstart, you know, the new me, if you want to call it that. It's kind of cringy to say, but pretty much, yeah, we're not going by SpeedYGO anymore. We're officially going by JT Speed. If you want to start interacting with me, I am going to link my Twitter up here and in the description below. You can follow me on Twitter. I tweet a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh now. So if you guys like that and you want to see more of my really shitty tweets, be sure to follow me on Twitter, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I'm like really into Yu-Gi-Oh right now. And it's something that I'm really enjoying, and something that I want to continue to make content on, including what I am hoping to be my first ever series on this channel, which is coming up soon, that I do think you guys will really enjoy once it is finally here. So be sure for sure to stick around for that when that comes out. And if you don't want to miss when it comes out, There's a big red button that says subscribe down there. If it's still red, that means you're not subscribed, so you should probably go do that. There's like a bell that's next to it that I think does some shit. You might want to do that too. But as always, again, thank you guys so much for watching the videos. It really means the world to me. I really want to keep growing this channel. My goal is to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. That sounds crazy, but I really think that we could do it. So if you guys, again, wouldn't mind going into that red button at the bottom and subscribe, it would really help me a lot. I appreciate everybody that watches these videos. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
That rhythm.